Hey guys, you're welcome back. So today I'm going to be sharing with you how to cut and sew this Bubu gown with flame. The first video you see is the inspiration, while the second picture was what I recreated. So if this looked like what you really wish to learn, please watch this video till the end. So here is the fabric I'll be using for today's tutorial, and also when cutting I'm going to be cutting for the front and the back at the same time because the gown is not going to be having a zipper because the neck is wide enough to accommodate the head. So when folding your fabric, you're going to be folding using your shoulder measurement divided by 2 plus your sleeve length. So in my case, my shoulder measurement divided by 2 is 8 inch and my sleeve length is 13 inch. So when you add the both of them together, you get 21 inch. So what I have here is 21 inch on fold for both the front and the back of the dress. The first thing I'm going to go ahead to do now is to draw a straight line at the top of my fabric, which is going to be serving as the shoulder line. After doing this, next I'll go ahead to take out my shoulder measurement divided by 2, which is 8. I'll mark that at this point. After marking that, I'll go ahead to insert my sleeve length from the point I just marked. So my sleeve length is 13 inch. I'm going to go ahead to take that measurement from where the shoulder measurement stopped, and I'll also go ahead to mark that like this also. After marking this, I'll go ahead to add 1 inch extra for the sewing allowance. This sewing allowance is going to be for folding the hem of the sleeve. Next, I'll be coming down by 1.5 inch from this point for the shoulder slope. So I'll place my tape rule at this point and mark 1.5 inch. This is going to be for the shoulder slope. After doing this, I'll move over to the neckline to draw the neck. So for the neck width, I'll go ahead to mark a neck width of 4 inch for both the front and the back block of the dress I'm making. After marking the neck width, I'll go ahead to connect this point to the shoulder slope using a straight line like this. After drawing the shoulder slope, next I'll move over to insert the sleeve opening. For the sleeve opening, I'll go ahead to mark 11 inch for my sleeve opening. 1 inch is going to be for the sewing allowance, while 10 inch is going to be the actual sleeve opening. After marking that, I'll draw a straight line with my ruler like this. Next, I'll move over to the neckline to insert the neck depth. So first of all, I'll go ahead to insert a neck depth of 1.5 inch for the back neckline, after which I'll draw a simple round neck with my ruler like this. After inserting the back neckline, I'll go ahead to insert the neck depth for the front. So for the front, I'll go ahead to mark a neck depth of 7 inch and I'll mark that. After marking that, I'll connect that point to the neck width using a straight line like this. So the front neckline is a V neckline. So I'll just go ahead to draw the V neckline like you see me doing in the video. So here we have the back neckline and the front neckline. Next, I'll move over to the main bodice. For the bodice, I'll go ahead to insert my hip measurement divided by 4 plus ease and sewing allowance all the way down because the gown is a very free gown. So the hip measurement I'm working with is 50 divided by 4 is 12.5. I'll go ahead to mark that 12.5. Next, I'll add 2 inch extra for ease and mark. Then I'll add 1.5 inch extra for my sewing allowance. After marking that, I'll go ahead to mark the same thing all the way down to the hem of the dress. So after marking the hip measurement all the way down, before I go ahead to connect the sides together, I'll go ahead to insert the length of the gown I'm making. So the length of the gown I'm making is 40 inch. I'll go ahead to mark the 40 inch, then I'll add 1.5 inch extra for the hemming allowance. That means the length of the gown I'm making is going to be 41.5 inch. After marking the length, next I'm going to go ahead to do now is to connect the sides together like you see me doing in the video. So once you get to this point, you're going to go ahead to connect the sleeve opening to the main bodice using a slight curve like you see me doing in the video. So basically this is what the main bodice of the dress is going to look like. The next I'm going to go ahead to do now is to cut it out. So I'll be cutting the back neckline first, after which I'll separate the back from the front and also cut out the front neckline. So after cutting, this is what you're going to be having. The next I'm going to go ahead to quickly do now is to separate the back from the front, because I'm going to be working on the front block of the dress first. So the first thing I'm going to go ahead to do now is to insert the flare. And to insert the flare, you're going to go ahead to turn your fabric to the good face. So I'm just going to go ahead to turn my fabric to the good face before I mark the points where I want my flare to start from. After turning your fabric to the good face, the next thing to do is to locate the point where you want the flare to start from. And to do that, you're going to go ahead to measure from your shoulder to 1 inch below your bust point. So in my case, my shoulder to 1 inch below my bust point is 15 inch. I'll go ahead to mark that. So after marking that, the next thing I'll go ahead to do is to move over to the edge of my fabric. That is this point. So the width of the flare I'm going to be cutting out is 10 inch. Remember, I added 1.5 inch extra for sewing allowance. So from the end of my fabric, I'm going to go ahead to go up by 11.5 inch. 10 inch is going to be for the flare, while the remaining 1.5 inch is going to be my hemming allowance. After marking that point, I'll go ahead to connect this point to that point using a curved line like you see me doing in the video. So all you need to do is to use your hand to draw a simple curve to meet with the point you mark at this point like you see me doing in the video. So this is what the curve is going to look like. After drawing the curve at this point, I'll turn it over to the other side. So I just marked the point on the other side of my fabric again. I'll move over to the other side. Then from the end of my fabric, I'll also come up by 11.5 inch and mark that also. After marking that, I'll connect this point to the side using a curve also like you see me doing in the video. So after drawing the curve, this is what you're going to be having on both sides. So I'm just going to go ahead to open it up for you to see what it looks like. So you should have something like this once you are done drawing the curve for the flame. So this is what you're going to be having. So the next thing you're going to go ahead to do now is to measure what you have at this point before you go ahead to cut the piece of fabric that you'll be using for the flame. For the flare, I've gone ahead to cut out this piece of fabric that I'm going to be using for the flare. So the flare is going to be a gathered flare. You can decide to pleat it and you can decide to gather it, but for me, I went ahead to gather it. And the width of the piece of fabric I have here is 11 inch. I'm going to go ahead to fold this part while the upper part will not be folded. To know the amount of fabric to cut out, you're going to go ahead to cut times 3 of whatever measurement you took on your main fabric. After hemming the fabric and doing the gathers, this is what my fabric looked like once I was done doing it. So this is what you're going to be having. So I went ahead to run a gather stitch and this is what it looks like. So don't forget to hem the edge of the fabric. The next I'm going to go ahead to do now is to attach this flare to the main bodice of the Bubu dress we are making. So here I have my Bubu dress. Like I said earlier, before you go ahead to cut out your fabric, make sure you measure what you have on this side. Take that measurement. So for me, after taking the measurement on this side, what I got was 45 inch. So I went ahead to cut out times 3 of the measurement I took on my fabric. So if you want it to be very full, you can also go ahead to cut out times 4 of whatever measurement you took on your fabric. So next I'm going to go ahead to attach the flare to the dress, and in doing that I'll go ahead to place the flare on my dress like this, making sure that the good face of the flare is facing the good face of my fabric. Then I'll go over to my sewing machine to stitch the flare on this line I drew. So I'll go ahead to keep it in place with my pins first, then I'll stitch it all the way around. So I'll quickly do this, then I'll come back to show you what it looks like. So after stitching the gathers to the dress, this is what it's going to look like. I also went ahead to give it a good press, and this is what I had once I was done attaching the gathers to the dress. As you can see, it came out really nice. So if you have another color of fabric, you can use that, but this is what I'm working with because this is what my client gave to me. So the next I'm going to go ahead to do now is to cut out the facing for the neckline. So because it is a V neckline, using a bias to finish up the neckline is not going to come out really nice. So I'm going to be using a piece of fabric to cut out the facing for the neckline. So the first thing to do is to make sure that you arrange the neckline and make sure every part is aligning. You can actually do this before fixing the gathers to the dress. Whichever one you want to do is totally okay. So for the facing, I'm going to be using this piece of lining for the facing. So here I have the lining on fold. I'll go ahead to place it like this. Then I'll place my fabric on it, making sure that the folded part is on the center of the fabric. After doing this, I'll go ahead to arrange it properly. Then I'll cut out the neckline I have on my fabric on the lining, like you see me doing in the video. So after cutting out the neckline, the next I'm going to go ahead to do now is to keep my fabric aside. Then I'll go ahead to measure 5 inch all the way around the facing. So I want the facing to be 5 inch wide. So I'll just go ahead to mark 5 inch all the way around. After marking that, I'll connect the points together. Then I'll go ahead to cut it out. After cutting, this is what your facing is going to look like. So I'll be folding the edge of the facing before I go ahead to attach it to the neckline. So I'm going to go ahead to place the facing on the good face of my fabric like this. Then I'll stitch it all the way around, after which I'll turn it over to the good face, give it a good press, and also keep it in place with my hemming gum. I'll also be repeating the same thing for the back block of the dress also. So after attaching the facing to the neckline, this is what it looks like once I was done doing that. I also went ahead to use my hemming gum to keep the facing in place so it doesn't come up when the dress is being worn. So this is what the good face of the dress is going to look like once you are done attaching the facing to it. As can see, it's looking so neat and the v neckline came out really nice. I also went ahead to do the same thing on the back block of the dress, and this is what the back neckline looked like once I was done attaching the facing to it. The next thing I'm going to go ahead to do now is to join the front and the back block together. So I'll go ahead to join the shoulders of the dress together. After doing that, I'll go ahead to also join the side. Then I'll come back to hem the sleeve and also the edge of the dress. After which I'll come back to show you the final look of the dress. So this is what the dress looked like once I was done making it. As you can see, it came out really nice and my client slayed with it very well. So if you find this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, and also drop a comment. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next tutorial.